Describe your first kiss. 4 words, soft voice, no threat, but inside the bamboo-walled hut, they land like an order. Ayame, 20, clenches her fingers around the cracked wooden clipboard, her only shield. The humid air sticks to her neck. Sweat rolls. Her breath rasps. She can't blink. She heard something darker behind the question. This is the micro-mystery. Why does an innocent sentence ignite fear? Corporal Harris, 22, taps his pencil. The sharp click slices the silence. He thinks he's following protocol. Nothing more. 90 women captured out of more than 3,200 Japanese POWs. Less than 3%. A statistical footnote. But this room feels like the center of a storm. Ayame remembers the leaflets. The warnings. America jin wa hazukashi koto o sasaru. Americans will force shame on you. Drawings of forced rituals. Broken women. Propaganda printed on thin yellow sheets. She saw at least 40 passed through her unit. They shaped everything she believes will happen now. Harris repeats. Describe your first kiss. Slower. Clearer. Ayame's pulse spikes. She thinks of Koji, 19, who kissed her behind the persimmon tree before leaving for training. A secret moment. Soft. Fragile. Hers. But here, in this stifling hut, the memory feels dangerous. If she speaks it aloud, will they use it, twist it, demand more? Light Miles, 31, translator, watches her stiffen. He recognizes the panic. Fear mixed with shame. Misinterpretation written across her posture. He warns Harris with a glance, but the form must be completed. Regulations don't bend for confusion. The smell of wet bamboo fills the room. Boots scrape. A fly buzzes near the lantern flame. Ayame swallows. Hard. The clipboard edge digs into her thumb. She imagines soldiers outside listening, waiting. Propaganda whispers coil tight around her thoughts. She lies. My first kiss. Never happened. Miles knows instantly it's false. Pre-war surveys showed nearly 60% of women her age had a first kiss tied to arranged courtship. Her denial is fear, not innocence. Harris nods slowly, sensing the fracture in her voice. He opens his mouth to continue, and the hut door creaks behind her. A shadow stretches across the dirt floor. Someone steps in. Heavy boots, deliberate pace. The air thickens. Harris freezes mid-breath. Miles shifts his weight, sensing the shift. Even the fly stops its circle. The newcomer's silhouette blocks the lantern glow, turning the hut into a cage. Ayame's grip tightens until her knuckles pale. No one speaks. No one breathes. The moment stretches waiting. Boots halt behind Ayame, but the man who enters isn't a guard. He's Sergeant O'Neill, 24, clutching a stack of forms, sweat darkening his collar. He doesn't notice the tension, not yet. He just scans the room and says it again, louder this time, as if volume solves anything. Describe your first kiss. The women stiffen, like struck metal. Keiko, 19, nurse aide, sits closest. She flinches so sharply her stool scrapes the dirt floor. O'Neill frowns. He didn't mean harm. He doesn't even look at the women directly. He's focused on the paperwork. But the question, routine in American POW protocol, hits Keiko like a shove. She whispers something fast, too fast. Lieutenant Miles raises a hand, signaling her to breathe. The hut smells of damp straw, wet cloth, and fear. Micro-mystery payoff. What does Keiko think the question means? Keiko lowers her head. Loose hair falls across her face. She isn't thinking about romance. She isn't thinking about boys under spring lanterns. She's thinking about the rumor spread through her field hospital weeks before surrender. Americans collect intimate details to judge purity. Purity determined worth. Worth determined treatment. Shame meant punishment. Her pulse thunders in her ears. O'Neill tries again, slower. Your first kiss. It's just background. Just. The word detonates everything. Keiko's breath stutters. She pictures a medical tent during an air raid, the night she pressed her lips to the cheek of Fumio, a wounded infantryman she tended. Not a kiss of courtship. A farewell, whispered during blackout as bombs fell outside. A promise he didn't live to hear again. She can't tell these men that moment. It belongs to grief, not interrogation. Miles leans forward. Keiko, he says softly in Japanese, they're not testing purity. He prays she believes him, but propaganda has already dug its claws deep. Over 40% of female POWs reported shame-induced silence in the first 24 hours of captivity. She's part of that statistic, crushed under it. Keiko finally whispers an answer, but not the real one. I have no kiss. O'Neill sighs, jotting something fast. He doesn't realize the damage the question caused. He doesn't hear the tremor in her voice or see her hands shaking. He just writes. The fly buzzes again. Sweat trickles down Keiko's spine. Miles opens his mouth to gently rephrase the next question. And a sudden knock slams against the hut's outer post, rattling the bamboo walls. The impact jolts every woman. Keiko's breath stops. O'Neill drops a form. Someone outside shouts for the sergeant, urgency cutting through the humid air like a blade now. The shout outside isn't danger, it's confusion. Captain Rhodes, 35, intelligence officer, storms into the hut holding something thin, crumpled, and stained. Mariko, 23, volunteer typist turned POW, lifts her gaze. One glance at the paper drains the color from her face. Because she recognizes it. Every woman does. It's the ghost that followed them here. Rhodes slaps it onto the table. Miles, translate this. His voice is tight, angry, not at them, at the mystery choking every interview. The pamphlet lies open under the lantern glow. A Japanese propaganda sheet, cheap ink, jagged sketches, not explicit, but disturbing enough to twist meaning. The smell of old paper rises as Miles lifts it with cautious fingers. Mariko's throat tightens. She remembers receiving the same sheet months earlier on a freezing morning. Her officer had gathered the women, warning them what foreign soldiers did after capture. The drawings were crude. Western men leaning close, touching faces, mouths, hair. But the captions made it worse. Kisu wa seifuku no chosho. A kiss is the humiliation of conquest. Micro-mystery resolved. Why the fear around the question? Miles reads aloud, translating each line. Harris stiffens. O'Neill mutters something under his breath. The air grows heavy. Even the lantern flame seems to shrink. These weren't warnings. They were psychological landmines. Report estimates say more than 150 such pamphlets were circulated among Japanese units from 1942 to 1945. Their purpose? Reshape harmless acts into symbols of domination. And for women like Mariko, already terrified of capture, the message became truth. Mariko's hands shake. She can't look at the pamphlet. She hears her commander's voice echoing, "If they ask about your kiss, they're choosing you." Shame floods her chest. Her pulse pounds like distant artillery. Harris, confused and shaken, asks softly, "Is this why you're afraid?" Mariko forces herself to speak. "They told us Americans use affection as punishment." Her voice cracks. A kiss was not love. It was taking. Miles swallows. He sees the shift in her eyes, from fear to grief. Grief for the memory she's buried, her real first kiss. A boy named Ren, 20, who kissed her goodbye before boarding a troop train, a moment bright as summer, now twisted into something dirty by war. She whispers, "They lied to us, but we believed it." The hut falls silent. O'Neill steps back, guilt rising. Rhodes rubs his temples, furious at the propaganda's poison. Mariko closes her eyes. She thinks the worst is over. Then Rhodes turns the pamphlet over and sees the second, even darker illustration now. He inhales sharply, and every woman feels the fear return. Rhodes doesn't speak at first. He just stares at the back of the pamphlet, jaw tightening, lantern light flickering across his face. Yuriko, 21, a mobilized student turned POW, watches the captain's expression shift from confusion to disgust. She knows exactly what he's seeing. The second illustration, the one their commander said proved everything. Yuriko grips her knees. Her nails dig into her skin. She feels the room tilt. Sergeant Blake, 28, steps closer. "What's on it?" he asks. Miles doesn't answer immediately. He translates silently, lips barely moving. The air tastes like ashes. Finally, he speaks. It says, "If a soldier asks about your kiss, he's measuring ownership." His voice cracks on the last word. Blake's brows slam together in disbelief. Yuriko's vision blurs. She hears her instructor's warning from training camp. Kisu wa meire no hajimari. A kiss is the beginning of command. Not affection, not memory. Command. Blake turns to Yuriko gently. "Is this what you all believed?" he asks. She nods once, then again. Shame presses on her chest like weight. She tries to swallow, but her throat is dry, burning. The bamboo walls feel too close. Every breath scratches. Nurse Edith, 26, Red Cross volunteer, steps inside carrying a basin of cooling water. She stops when she sees the pamphlet. "Oh, hell," she whispers. "No wonder they're terrified." Yuriko shuts her eyes. She doesn't want them to see the memory rising inside her, the real first kiss. A boy named Daiichi, 21, who brushed his lips against hers at a temple festival under paper lanterns. Music, laughter, innocence, everything the war crushed. She speaks, voice trembling. "We thought, if you asked us, it meant you were choosing who to shame." Blake crouches beside her. "Yuriko, no one here is choosing anything like that. It's just a question." His tone is firm, honest. But to her, honesty feels like another danger. Propaganda doesn't break easily. The hut grows still. Lantern light wavers. A distant shout echoes from outside, someone calling for water, boots thudding in mud. Yuriko's heart hammers. She feels grief crawling up her throat, hot and sharp. Edith kneels, offering the basin. The cool steam rises. "You're safe," she says softly. Yuriko looks at the water, seeing her reflection tremble. She isn't sure she believes Edith. Not yet. Blake glances at Rhodes. "What do we tell them now?" he murmurs. Rhodes doesn't answer. Instead, he folds the pamphlet slowly, too slowly, and sets it down. Yuriko tenses. Something in his silence is wrong. The silence feels like a fuse burning towards something she cannot see. Now. Lieutenant Davis, 30, arrives at the hut with a stack of revised forms, unaware of the emotional collapse unfolding inside. Sachiko, 25, former teacher turned POW, sits rigidly on the bench, eyes red from holding back tears. Rhodes hands Davis the folded pamphlet without a word. One glance, and Davis exhales sharply. He finally understands the minefield they've been stepping on. "We need a different approach," Davis mutters. He kneels beside Sachiko, lowering his voice. "This question, it was never meant to threaten you." His sincerity softens the air, but fear still lingers like smoke. Corporal Finch, 20, stands behind him, gripping a stack of blank papers. The lantern light catches the trembling in his hands. Sachiko watches them both, unsure if this is another trick, Propaganda has carved doubt into her bones. Davis points at the clipboard. This form was written for European POWs. Americans assumed the word kiss meant the same everywhere. His voice wavers. We were wrong. Sachiko's breath shakes. She touches the frayed hem of her uniform, grounding herself. She wants to believe him. She wants to let go of the fear. But war doesn't let go easily. Miles steps forward. I propose we change the question, he says. Ask something universal, something that can't be twisted into shame. What do you suggest? Rhodes asks. Miles hesitates. Then, ask about trust. Silence settles again, different from before, less sharp, more uncertain. Sachiko lifts her head. Trust? The Japanese word escapes her lips softly. Shinrai? Davis nods. Yes, your first moment of trust. That's what we actually need to understand. His voice is steady now. Hope flickers in the room. Statistics flash through Miles's mind. After cultural adjustments in other camps, misunderstanding rates dropped by nearly 50%. Cooperation increased. Fear faded. Sachiko imagines a memory, not a kiss. A moment from childhood, giving her little sister a paper crane to calm her during a storm. Trust born from gentleness, not fear. The image steadies her heartbeat. But the shift is fragile. The hut still smells of damp bamboo and memory. Outside, thunder rumbles. Distant artillery or real storm, no one knows. Davis clears his throat. Sachiko, can you tell us your first moment of trust? He asks gently. Her lips part. But before she can answer, a sharp whistle pierces the camp air, urgent and shrill, slicing through the fragile calm. Every head jerks toward the doorway as boots pound the muddy path outside, growing louder with each step, and a shadow sweeps across the hut's thin wall, signaling something unexpected is about to break open. The whistle slices the camp air, but Davis doesn't flinch. He stands fast, gripping the new forms. We continue, he says, voice low but certain. Outside, boots thunder past, urgency bleeding through the bamboo walls. Now, 18, seamstress conscript, sits near the doorway, shoulders tight, eyes wide. She's been silent until now. Blake steps aside so Davis can approach her. Now, he says gently, we're no longer asking about your first kiss. He slides the old form away. We're asking something different. Now blinks. Her breath trembles. Different? Miles leans forward. Your first moment of trust. The words hit her like a gust of cold wind. Trust. Shinrai. A concept both fragile and dangerous. She looks at her hands, clasped tightly in her lap, knuckles white. The lantern glow catches the sheen of sweat on her temples. Outside, the storm deepens. Thunder growls. Trust, she repeats. The word tastes unfamiliar. Finch shifts his weight, boots scraping dirt. He watches her carefully, sensing something unspoken. Now inhales sharply. My first trust was not a person. The room stills. Even the fly near the lantern pauses in its erratic loop. Blake and Davis exchange a glance. Intrigue sharpening. The air. Miles prompts softly. Then what was it? Nao reaches into her sleeve, fingers trembling, and pulls out a tiny folded square of rice paper. Edges worn, creases soft from months of hiding. This, she whispers, a symbolic object. Unexpected. Powerful. Blake leans closer. What's written on it? Nao shakes her head. Nothing. It is blank. The soldiers look at each other, confused. A blank note? Why guard it so fiercely? Nao sees their confusion and forces herself to continue. Before deployment, my mother handed it to me. She said, when you are afraid, write a truth you cannot say aloud. Her voice cracks. I never wrote anything. I was too afraid even to trust paper. Miles's expression softens. Revelation flickers across his face. This wasn't about romance or shame. It was terror shaped into silence. Thunder snaps outside, rattling the hut. Davis kneels in front of her. "Now, can you tell us the truth you wanted to write?" Silence stretches, trembling. Now opens the paper slowly, hands shaking. Lantern shadows ripple across the blank surface. She whispers, "The truth was never about a kiss." Davis leans in, now looks up, eyes shining. "The truth was about why we feared you." But before she can explain, a runner bursts through the doorway, panting hard. Mud splashes from his boots as he gasps, "Sir, you need to see this. Now. Immediately. Right now. Move." The runner doubles over, catching his breath. "Lieutenant Barron wants you at the storage tent. Now." He manages. Rhodes signals Davis and Miles to follow, but Blake stays with the women. Emmy, 22, cashier before conscription, watches the commotion unfold with growing dread. Her fingers twist a lacquered hairpin she keeps hidden in her sleeve. She never lets it go. Not since the day the war took everything. Minutes later, Davis and Miles return, faces pale, shaken. Barron follows behind them, carrying a small wooden box. Emmy's stomach drops. She recognizes it instantly. Every woman does. It's the standard issue memory box Japanese families used to send keepsakes to their daughters at mobilization. Barron sets it gently on the table. "This was found in the confiscated items tent," he says quietly. "We think it belongs to one of you." Emmy's breath catches. Her vision tunnels. She clutches the hairpin harder. Miles opens the lid slowly. Inside lie 3 items: a folded festival ribbon, a chipped ceramic charm, and a photograph, half burned, edges blackened. The hut falls silent. Blake looks at the women. "Whose is this?" Emmy stands. Barely. Her knees tremble. "Mine." Rhodes nods for her to come forward. Emmy steps closer, each movement careful, like the floor might break. She stares into the box, into the last pieces of her life before the Empire swallowed her. She touches the ribbon first. The fabric is rough against her fingertips. Barron asks softly, "Tell us what these mean." Emmy tries to speak, but her throat tightens. The lantern flickers. She exhales shakily. "The ribbon was from a summer festival. My sister tied it in my hair before I left." Her voice cracks. "The charm is from my father, for protection." She hesitates at the burned photograph. Blake notices. "And this?" Emmy swallows. Hard. "That was my mother." Silence drops like a stone. Barron steps back, guilt rising in his expression. He hadn't expected this. None of them had. Miles clears his throat. "Emmy, your first moment of trust. Was it with these items?" Emmy shakily shakes her head. "No," she whispers. "The trust was what they represented, that I had a place to return to." Her fingers trace the burned edges. "I thought if they survived, so would I." Blake nods slowly. "And now?" Emmy closes the box. "Now I don't know." Another rumble of thunder shakes the hut, darkening the air. Then Barron notices something tucked under the padding, a small envelope he hadn't seen before. He pulls it free, and every woman leans forward as if the envelope might decide their fate. Rena doesn't see Barron's hand move. She only sees the shape of it reaching near the box. That's enough. Her body reacts before thought can catch up. She jerks back so violently her stool skids across the dirt, scraping loud against bamboo. The lantern swings, casting wild shadows. A gasp rips from her throat. The entire hut freezes. Blake steps forward instinctively. "Easy, easy!" But the words come too late. The explosive flinch sends a message sharper than any scream. Rena's breath fractures, fast and shallow, like she's drowning in air. She clutches her arms tight to her chest, fingers trembling so hard her nails dig through the fabric of her sleeves. Emmy grabs her shoulder in reflex, but Rena yanks away again, terrified of even familiar touch. Miles murmurs, "Oh God." She thought he was going to take it. His voice trembles. The lacquered hairpin falls from Rena's sleeve and clatters on the floor. Tiny sound, huge meaning. Baron stares at it, stunned. "I wasn't taking anything," he says softly, but Rena can't hear the softness. She only hears the warnings. America jin wa fureru koto de unmei o ubao. Americans steal fate by touch. A propaganda line burned into her for years. A single touch was the beginning of ownership. Stat slap hits the Americans like a punch. More than half of the women, over 54%, had shown reflexive flinch responses upon sudden approach during early captivity. Rena is now the living evidence. Blake lifts both hands, palms open. No one's touching you. No one's taking anything. But the damage is done. Rena presses her back to the wall, chest heaving, eyes burning. "Don't touch me," she cries in Japanese. "Fureru na." Sweat beads across her forehead as thunder cracks outside, shaking the flimsy bamboo panels. Davis glances at Rhodes. "We push too fast," he whispers. Rhodes's jaw works. "Clear the hut." "What?" Finch asks. "Everyone out," Rhodes orders. "Now, give them space. We reset." The women stare wide-eyed. The men hesitate only a second, then begin backing toward the door. Boots crunch on dirt. Lantern light dims as shadows shift. Rena stays pressed to the wall, breathing hard, clutching herself like she's holding her own bones together. Blake pauses at the doorway. "We're stepping out," he says gently. "You're safe." But as he pulls the door open, wind slams inside, carrying a shout from outside camp that changes everything. The shout isn't panic. It's a summons, urgent and sharp, cutting straight through the storm-dark air. Every head snaps toward the sound as if pulled by a wire, instincts firing faster than understanding can form. Rain begins spitting through gaps in the bamboo roof as the shout echoes across the camp. Sergeant Caldwell, 29, strides toward the hut with Nurse Molly, 27, close behind. Hannah, 20, former wartime messenger, watches them through the doorway as the men file out, leaving the women in a tense cluster. The air feels washed, thinner after the storm of fear, but confusion rushes in to fill the space. Caldwell steps inside slowly, palms visible. No sudden moves, understood. He glances at Rena, still pressed against the wall, then turns his focus to Hannah, who sits nearest the doorway. Her posture is tight but not shaking. She watches him with wary clarity. Molly kneels beside her. "We're moving interviews outside," she says gently. "Fresh air, no lantern shadows. You choose the distance." The shift is small but seismic, a choice, not an order. Hannah hesitates, then nods once. Caldwell leads them out into the clearing. The storm clouds hang low, but the air smells of rain and wet earth, not fear. The women sit on wooden stools spaced however far apart they want. Hannah chooses one with a view of the tree line. She breathes deeper. Stats flash through Caldwell's mind. Interviews moved outdoors reduced panic cues by nearly 30%. He's about to see why. He crouches a few feet away. "Hannah," he begins, "your first moment of trust. Not a kiss. Trust. Can you tell us?" The question lands softly. Hannah looks down at her hands folded in her lap. She speaks slowly. "My first trust was with a messenger's stool." She touches the wooden stool beneath her now, worn smooth. "Back home, they let me carry military messages. They trusted me to run fast, to never drop them." Caldwell nods, listening. But one night, Hannah continues. During an air raid, the office caught fire. I hid under the stool. It kept burning beams off me. Her fingers glide along the wood. After that, I trusted the stool more than people. Molly's eyes soften. And now? Hannah exhales. Now, I don't know. She looks at Caldwell. Maybe trust can change. Before Caldwell can respond, a second shout rips across the clearing, closer this time. Urgent. Caldwell rises instantly. Stay here. Hannah grips the stool. What's happening? No one answers. The camp seems to hold its breath. Then a soldier sprints into view, face pale, clutching something dark in his fist. He opens his hand, and what lies inside makes Caldwell stop cold. The women lean forward, instinct tightening, as the object catches the dim light. Everyone stares, waiting. The object in the soldier's hand is a photograph, creased, water-stained, edges torn by time, but not burned like Emmy's. This one is whole enough to see two figures, a young Japanese woman and a man in uniform standing beneath a line of paper lanterns. Captain Reeves, 36, steps forward and takes it carefully. His brows tighten. Aoi, 23, former ferry clerk turned POW, recognizes it instantly. Her breath collapses. That's mine, she whispers. Reeves kneels so she can see it clearly. Is this your family? Aoi shakes her head. No, that was my fiancé, Kenta. Miles glances at Reeves. He's seen this before. The moment when a simple object detonates memory. Aoi sits on a stool, back straight but fragile. Rain patters softly around them. The sky hangs gray and heavy. Reeves softens his voice. Aoi. Earlier we asked the others about their first moments of trust. But I need to ask you something different. Aoi lifts her eyes, wary but listening. Your first kiss, Reeves says gently. Not for shame, not for ownership, for truth. Aoi closes her eyes. She can smell the faint smoke from a nearby cook fire, mixing with the damp scent of earth. My first kiss, she begins, was with Kenta at the summer festival. He leaned in under the lanterns. I was so nervous I almost stepped back. But he laughed. A tiny smile ghosts her lips. He said it was like touching sunlight. Molly listens, blinking tears. Aoi continues. He promised he'd come back. He didn't. Her fingers tremble as she touches the photo. I thought, if I remembered that kiss, I would break. Reeves nods slowly. Stats flicker in his mind. 1 in 4 Japanese women lost a fiancé or partner by 1945. Aoi's grief isn't rare, but it is raw. Miles asks softly, so when the Americans asked about it, what did you feel? Aoi exhales, voice cracking. I felt you were trying to take something that wasn't yours, something still alive, the only part of him I had left. Reeves lowers his head, understanding. Aoi looks at him, eyes glistening. A kiss was love, she says, but you asked as if it were a mark. The wind shifts, the photograph flutters in Reeves's hand. Before he can respond, another soldier rushes forward, breathless. Sir, you need to hear this. It's about why they feared the question in the first place. He holds a small booklet, its red cover soaked from rain, and the sight of it makes Aoi flinch. Reeves stiffens as the soldier approaches. The clearing goes silent. Everyone waits. The red booklet drips rainwater onto Reeves's hand as he flips it open. Mika, 21, former student turned POW, steps closer despite herself. She knows that booklet. Every woman does. It was the counterpart to the propaganda pamphlets, the one distributed in training schools, warning them about Western interrogation rituals. The one that turned harmless questions into traps. Reeves scans the page, jaw tightening. Miles, Translate. Miles takes it carefully. The thin paper squishes between his fingers. He reads the characters. Questions about affection, equal claims of possession. Another line. Foreign soldiers weaponize intimacy. And the final one, Mika remembers. Your first kiss, if spoken aloud, becomes theirs. Mika's stomach twists. She had recited that line as a teenager, believing every syllable. Reeves exhales. So this booklet is why you reacted the way you did? Mika nods slowly. We were told you would take anything spoken, words, memories, even shame. Rain thumps harder on the clearing, pattering on the wooden stools. Mika's hands shake. Her throat tightens as she forces herself to speak. My first kiss. Wasn't much, she says. We were hiding in a school basement during an air raid. A boy named Haruto, 19, leaned over, terrified. He said if we died, he didn't want to die without knowing what a kiss felt like. Her voice softens. It was clumsy, quick, but it was ours. She swallows. When the Americans asked about it, I thought you wanted to steal that moment, to erase him. Molly steps closer. We weren't trying to take anything. We were trying to understand you. Mika nods faintly. I know. Stats drift through Davis's mind. Post-war surveys showed 70% of female POWs feared Allied forces because of propaganda, not actions. Reeves closes the booklet. Mika, what do you want us to know now? She looks at him, and something shifts. Fear teaches us to see danger where none exists. But truth, she hesitates. Truth lets us breathe again. The storm eases. The sky brightens slightly above the clearing. The women watch the booklet in Reeves's hand, the object that once ruled their fear. Mika steps forward. We believed lies, but we don't have to keep believing them. Reeves nods. Then tell us the last truth we need. Mika exhales. The truth is, we were never afraid of you. She presses a hand over her heart. We were afraid of what we'd been taught. Before Reeves can respond, the wind flips the booklet open again, revealing a final torn page. The page trembles in the wind, its message poised to change everything they thought they understood. Now,